Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, go ahead and hit subscribe because there's so many more videos to come. Today, I plan to walk you through my step-by-step process of creating an embroidery file from Canva and bringing it into Hatch Embroidery Digitizing software, and tips and tricks along the way will also be shared. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so I really love to go into Pinterest for inspiration because honestly, sometimes I get something similar to writer's block, which I think it's just like creativity block. I really just don't know where to start. So honestly, okay, I really like this design because I don't know if you know this, but I'm currently in college to be a early education teacher. I graduate in December, so I think it'd be really cute to create something like this. Progress over perfection, and then the pencil in the middle is just so cute, so perfect. So basically what I would do from here is just copy the image from Pinterest, go over to Etsy. Now I have an embroidery machine that uses a 5x7 hoop. So you're going to go over to units and then just click on inches, and the width is going to be a 7, I think, because the way the pencil is, I would say this would need to be 7 inches wide, and then the height would be 5 inches. So let's go back. So 7 inches for the width, and then for the height would be 5. So from there, I'm just going to click on create new design. Okay, so now that I'm inside of Canva and I have my exact dimensions for my embroidery hoop, now all I have to do is copy or paste the image that I got from Pinterest inside of the document. Now from here, I literally just have this in here for a reference image, so I don't have to keep going back over here. So I can really just exit out of this and just kind of focus on this design. And if you'd like, you can even type in the name, progress over perfection. Okay, so now I'm gonna go underneath the elements tab and essentially just try to recreate this. So we can start with a pencil, keep it simple, and let's try to find something as close as possible. Okay, I'm liking this one. Now you can use this angle button here to kind of turn it around, turn it on its side, however you'd like. Now I'm gonna try to keep it like this and leave some space right above it and underneath it for progress over perfection. Okay, so now that I have the pencil in the middle, I'm just gonna go over to the text and click on add a subheading. And let's start off with over, because the other words are in the same font and over is in cursive, so we're gonna have to do this one separate anyway. So we can just start off with this, and you're gonna click on this at the very top so we can find some cursive that I like. If you'd like, you can maybe even type in cursive in the search engine to try to find something, narrow it down. Okay, I immediately like this one. This one's pretty cool. Now, again, you don't have to make it exactly like the picture you found. I'm just trying to show you that it is possible to literally find something online that you like and just recreate it yourself using Canva. So I'm just trying to do it exactly as it is, but you definitely could use any kind of font that you'd like. You could literally switch it up. You don't have to do the same one. You know, just want to put that out there. So now we're going to go back over to text again, click on add a subheading, and we're going to type in progress and then press return or enter, whichever laptop you're using, and then perfection. Now this is where we need to kind of maneuver some things around, as you can see, because they're too close together and you can barely see the pencil. So you're going to go up to the top drop down menu up here, and you're going to look for the button that says spacing. When you hover over everything, some things come up. So clicking on spacing is what I like to do, and you're going to be focusing on line spacing, right? Because progress and perfection are on 2 different lines. So as soon as you start to move this, you're going to notice that they start to move away from each other. So that's as far down as we can go. So if we just move it up a little bit, it's kind of perfect. Honestly, like if it was any closer, it probably wouldn't work, but this does work. So now that we have it pretty much done, we can literally just delete this picture. We don't need it anymore. Now, this design on the image is obviously way too small. As you recall from the very beginning, I made sure that this white background document situation inside of Canva was 5x7. So if I kept this little design down here as is, it would literally stitch out to be about like 1 inch. That's not what we want. We want this design to fill up this entire document, okay? So from here, I'm just going to kind of start in the right-hand corner of the design to grab every single element that I put into this document. Once I grab onto every single thing, you're going to click on group. So everything just turns into one thing. So you can just move it around all together. You don't have to worry about moving the letters and moving the pencil. Like, everything is together. This is how it came, apparently. So from here, now you can literally just grab onto one of the side boxes and make it larger to fill up this whole document. Now I feel like this is pretty good. Now you can also change the design size once you're inside of the software, but making it as large as possible inside of Canva will allow for the digitizing process to just go over a lot more seamlessly, and the letters as well would also digitize a lot more cleaner. Now, something you also want to keep in mind, if you're going to be digitizing letters inside of the software, you can essentially just do so in the software. So I will show you once we get there, but you definitely could have just decided to download an image of the pencil and then inside of the software just add the letters, because if you're digitizing letters, there's a feature inside of the software that you paid good money for to have that included. Okay, so the pros to adding the font inside of Canva is the fact that there are different fonts that Hatch does not include inside of their software that you could essentially find online and then just upload it into Canva. So if you wanted to do that, all you would have to do is go under the text button, the text menu here, and click on brand kit and click on edit. And then from here at the bottom, you just see it'll say manage uploaded fonts. Now I have 15 fonts that I've uploaded over the years. This is everything I found. I use Dove fonts, 1001 fonts, or 101 fonts. Any font site that you can use to download free fonts, I will download it and upload it into Canva if I cannot find it inside of Hatch. So that is kind of where I stand on that. That's why I love using the font features inside of Canva, but then, like I said, there's different features inside of the software. Anyways, let me stop my yapping and let's go ahead and show you how to bring this inside of the software. Okay, so now once you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm done, I need to digitize this now. You're gonna click on share at the very top and you're gonna click on download. Now, once you click on download, you're gonna see this menu come up. Underneath file type, there's a couple of different options. I recommend PNG because SVG is for some reason not recognized in Hatch. Now, if you're going to be purchasing an SVG file that you intend to digitize, all you would have to do is bring the SVG file into Canva and then download it into PNG. Does that make sense? You would just convert it and then bring that original SVG file, but now turned PNG file, into the software, and you would be good to go. But in this case, I'm just going to keep it at PNG because, like I said, SVG is just, it doesn't get recognized. So now you're going to click on download and it's going to do its thing. Once it's done, you're going to see it pop up here. And then from here, you're going to hop on over to the software. Okay, so once the software appears, it's gonna look something like this. Now, I have Hatch Embroidery 2, so if you get Hatch Embroidery 3 or if you download the free trial, it probably looks a little bit different than this, I'm not gonna lie. And I don't really know how to direct you to the same or similar buttons that I'm seeing. So if I say things like on your left-hand corner or on your right-hand corner, it might not be in that corner. I just want to warn you because I do have the older version, But I'm just gonna go about this as usual, and hopefully it'll kind of look similar enough that you'll understand what I'm talking about. So you're just gonna look for new Blake design, wherever corner that may be. And once that loads, you're literally just going to look for the PNG file that you just downloaded and bring it into the software. So once you find it, you're gonna look for zoom to fit. Once you click on it, it's gonna bring you in just a little bit closer to your design. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but I do have the composer level of the software, so I unfortunately do not have any access to the digitizer level features, but I do have access to the auto-digitizing features. Now, don't let that fool you. I feel like I've created some pretty nice files in my few years of using this software, but like I said, there are some limitations. I can't digitize super complex designs, but something like this, it's pretty simple and I can make do. So I'm going to show you two different ways to digitize this image so you can see that there are so many ways that this software can be versatile and work in your favor. So we're going to start off with the most likely way that somebody would probably attack this. So you're just going to click on click to fill underneath the auto-digitize drop-down menu. Now, there's two different buttons that look really similar. You have click to fill, and then you have click to fill without holes. Now, essentially, one of these buttons is going to leave gaps for the thread that comes on top of another thread color. And the other button is not going to leave any gaps for the thread that comes on top of another thread color. So I'm going to show you because sometimes it just makes more sense when you see it. So once you click on either one of those buttons, you're going to click on the image and you're going to see this menu sort of pop up. And essentially this menu is just requesting you to but essentially choose what colors that they're detecting inside of the software. So my best advice for you on this screen is to have as few colors as possible. Now, why I say that is because if you have unnecessary colors that you're detecting, so instead of having 7, let's say I had 44, that is essentially just going to make my design very, very pixelated because it's picking up on a ton of colors that are not necessary. Okay, like this orange color right here for the pencil, it's just one color. But if this was 44 colors instead of 7, this orange pencil would probably have 10 different colors detected, and then it would be very hard to digitize that. So keep it as simple as possible. If you see one color somewhere, make sure it's detected. If you don't see it there, like this one's almost pushing it because you can see how it's showing up underneath other areas of the design rather than just over here for the tip of the pencil. So we might have to dial it back to 6. Because honestly, the tip of the pencil and the black for the letters can really just be the same thing. So now when you click on it, you see the tip of the pencil and all the colors. So you can even just have 6. You don't even need to have 7. Now this lighter orange color is of course right before the tip of the pencil, and then the darker orange is the pencil, and then the pink is the eraser, the gray is the little metal part of the pencil, and then the white is literally the background, so it doesn't even count. So we technically only have 5 colors. I hope this makes sense. If you have questions about this part, don't hesitate to comment them down below. I know it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I promise you it'll make more sense as you do more pictures. So from here, you can keep it on fine or coarse. I always keep it on fine, and you're just gonna click on OK. Once that's finished loading, once you hover over different parts of the design, you're gonna see a little purplish colored grid kind of appear on wherever you're hovering. Now, it also is white. On some sort of a grid's gonna appear. You're gonna see purple, you're gonna see white, but when you hover over it, you're gonna notice like, okay, it's wanting me to click on this section here. So I'm going to show you what the difference is between these two buttons first before we just get started with everything. So if I click on click to fill without holes, and I click on this orange, it is going to literally ignore this black thread that is on top. Now, this is beneficial if you don't want there to be any gaps in between this orange thread and the black thread. So I usually do something like this. I will ignore the thread and then just add the thread. I'm sorry, let me go back. Let me undo, because click to fill without holes is going to ignore the gap in this O right here. So yeah, I would just do this and then go back over it, and that is going to make sure that there's no gaps. So if you don't want any gaps, sometimes that can be super helpful. And then honestly, you see how I clicked on this peach thread over here? And if you zoom in a little bit, it's kind of like overlapping, and you can see that it's on top of this orange thread. In a real pencil, like this part of the pencil comes underneath that. So we're gonna actually move it all the way back up to the top. How you do that, you click on these little arrows. It says move to the top. So as soon as you click on it, it's gonna go right above the orange pencil, and you're gonna see that it's actually underneath it. Now there's actually still more that you need to do here to ensure that there's no gaps. Okay, now we're actually gonna go back and do it to the other side of the pencil too, but this specific section with the zigzag is very, very tricky and has the most likelihood to have some gaps, because that's very precise. So all I did to make these nodes appear was click on the reshape button, and that will allow you to edit the stitch angles and adjust the nodes essentially. Now, nodes are these yellow boxes and these blue circles. So wherever your nodes are is where your needle's going to be with your thread, and if your nodes are not aligned with your other thread node, there's going to be a gap right there. So if I don't want there to be a gap, and this thread color comes before the orange, I'm just gonna overextend the node so it goes a little bit further back than what the orange thread will do. And I'm gonna do that all the way to the end here. I'm gonna delete some, because I don't need all of them. How do I delete the nodes? Depends on the laptop choice. I'm on a MacBook, so I use Command Delete. If you're using an HP laptop, you probably just have to click on Delete. If that's not working, comment down below so I can try to help you out, but that is all you do to delete a node. Now, if you zoom out a little bit, you could probably even move this a little bit lower. You don't need it to be that high, but you get the gist. Essentially, if I were to move this underneath the orange fill, you see how that goes on top now? That's what you want it to be, because you don't want there to be any gaps. You want it to be right underneath it. So that's what I do there. You can do the same thing up here with the tip as well. You wouldn't mess with the tip. I'd probably just move whatever thread color is underneath. So because this peachy orange color is underneath the tip, I'm going to move that thread color. I'm not going to even touch the black one. So you see how the nodes are like underneath it? That's what you're going for. Again, that literally just helps you not see any gaps in your finished project. That is why I'm doing that. Now, if you look a little closely to these 3 different thread colors overlapping, you can almost just tell that there's going to be some gaps in the middle there, because they're barely touching each other. Look at this purple line. That purple line is where the needle is going to be. If I click on the other one, it's literally the exact same place. You would think that it'd be perfect, but the way that things always end up embroidering, there's going to be a lot of tension with the thread and the material. A lot of things are getting pulled. Okay, so you definitely want to overlap thread if it means you're gonna not see any gaps. So again, I use the same rule of thumb. Whichever thread is underneath is the nodes that I mess with. So because the eraser tip is underneath the metal, I'm gonna move the nodes that belong to the eraser tip. I'm not even gonna touch the one that is the metal. Now you can adjust the ones that are metal if there's an excess amount of nodes, but there's an appropriate amount. I feel like there's not too many. So I'm just gonna ignore them. I'm gonna leave them alone. I'm also gonna mess with the pencil nodes as well, because you can see they're not overlapping, and that's an issue because there will be gaps. There absolutely will be gaps. Move it down a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna click on zoom to fit so I can zoom out a little bit so you can really see what's going on. Now, if you look over here on the left side of the pencil, there's not too many nodes. I like what I'm seeing, but immediately when I zoomed out, my eyes just redirected to this little excess amount of nodes. So I'm just gonna zoom in here and adjust and assess the mess. One moment, please. That's what I went in and did. I just deleted a ton of nodes because it's not necessary to have that many, and if you want your edges to look clean and crisp, I promise you, the less nodes, the better. Okay, so we basically have finished the pencil. Now, there are two different ways you can go about digitizing the font. There's actually three ways. So the first way was using click to fill and clicking on the letters like I did in the very beginning. Now I can do the same exact thing up here as well if I wanted to do that. Now that can be all good and dandy. I think it can get you far, but eventually you're gonna get some complaints from customers that it doesn't look very clean and it's not very neat. So I'm gonna show you a second way of doing things. Another option, I'm gonna go ahead and delete over since I'm gonna add that back in. So you're gonna zoom out a little bit and you're gonna use the select tool and you're gonna click on the image. It's very imperative that you click on the image because if you don't click on the image, you're not gonna see these two flower buttons glow. If you don't click on the image, they're gonna disappear into oblivion. They're not there anymore. So you have to click on the image. If you click on the first flower, this one is going to immediately digitize every single component of your design. The pencil is going to be redone if I click on this button. If I click on the second button, I can choose what colors are digitized for me. So I always use the second one because I don't want it to just be done against my will. I would like some kind of control over what component is being digitized. So we're gonna click on the second one. A menu like this is going to pop up with a couple of different options for you to play around with. So basically all I would like to happen right now is for the font to be digitized. So every single color that is not the font, I am going to click on omit. The color that is the font and also the tip is black, so I'm going to make sure it's either details or fill. It's totally up to you. I've never noticed much of a difference changing it from one or the other. From there, you're going to ignore this side of the screen because it doesn't really matter, at least in my opinion, and you're going to click OK. And voila. Do you see how lovely these letters are? Amazing. Chef's kiss. So clean. I mean, it looks professionally done. So that's how I go about it. Now, if you recall, I actually already digitized the tip, so I can literally scoot it over so you can see the original version. The only difference here is that my original version has the tatami object property and their version has the satin stitch. Totally up to you which one you'd like to keep, but I'm gonna delete the one that they made because it looks a little wonky. But the letters look amazing, so I think I'm gonna keep the letters. I think we're a match. So yeah, that is how I usually go about digitizing letters. I do not use the click to fill button to digitize letters because in my opinion, they don't look very neat. And I'm going to click to fill these letters so you can see them side by side and judge them for yourself. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here. Now, of course, the main difference, of course, is that the above one is satin stitch and the one below it is tatami. But even if I go ahead, even if I change this one to tatami, I can zoom in and you can still see how the angles are different. If you click on progress or the O in progress and click on reshape, you see these angles? Look how fancy these angles are. If you click on the O, there's only one angle here. The needle is only going 45 degrees, but for this O, the angle is changing in this amazing way. Like, what? And now I'm gonna quickly show you the third option of digitizing letters. So underneath the lettering / monogram drop down menu, you're going to click on the lettering tab and you're going to enter the text that you'd like to digitize. So if you'd like to digitize progress, you're just going to type it in and suddenly you have a brand new option that you could use instead of the one that you brought inside of the software. It's almost identical to one another. You can even change the font itself to something else. What if you change your mind? What if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't like this font, I need it to be something else. This font's pretty cute. I think it's really nice. So you can do that. That's it, guys. Those are the ways that I digitize font. Now we're gonna go ahead and pivot to the next phase. We're gonna delete the picture in the background because we really just don't need it anymore. Now I need to make sure that this design is gonna fit in my machine. So I'm just gonna grab the whole design inside of the software until it all glows pink or this purple color. So the width needs to be right under 7 inches. So that would be 6.850. Press enter and you see it kind of got a little bit larger. So this would work because the height cannot exceed about 4.850 inches and it's only at 2.5. So this would work. Now, however, if I make the height 4.850, because I do have a little bit more of hoop space because it can go up to 5 inches tall, you notice that the width is now 13 inches, right? So that's not going to work. You have to make sure that you keep each of your dimensions in mind because you can't exceed either of them. So my tip for that is look at the orientation of your design. So if your design is wider than it is tall, then focus on your width being as large as it can be. Versus if your design is like this and it's more tall than it is wide, then you would want the height to be larger than the width. So it literally just depends on the orientation of your design. So from here, it's time to export this lovely design we've created together. So you're going to click on output. Now, here's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. You need 2 different file types. You want an EMB file and whatever embroidery file type you need for your machine. An EMB file comes in handy if you ever need to bring your file back inside of the software to adjust it. If you bring a PES file back inside of the software, it's not going to be the same experience when you go to edit it. So that's just a common rule of thumb. You definitely want to make sure you have the EMB file. So I'm going to save it. And then right underneath Save Design As is Export Design. That's the other button you're going to click on. And this drop down menu will give you all of your options for your embroidery machine file formatting. So it literally just depends on the machine you have. I have the Brother PE900, so that is the PES option. And I use a 5x7 hoop. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in there. If this was a 4x4 design, I would type in 4x4. It just helps me to know which file is which. And then you're going to click on save. And then from there, you're going to transfer this design onto your embroidery machine. If you think I should embroider this file in my next video, let me know down below in the comment section. Otherwise, don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your closest embroidery friend. Till next time, bye guys!